The article I chose for my presentation is Islam and Education, with research by Susan L. Douglas and Munir A. Sheikh by Janelle Anderson. Defining Islamic. The term Islamic has a multitude of meanings to different people. Muslims use the term to refer to what relates to Islamic teachings or institutions. The word is often served as an adjective in everyday speech that neatly partitions off familiar terms from normalcy and transforms them into unreachable, alien concepts. The term Islamic is attached to a wide range of phenomena. Muslims use the term to refer to what relates to Islamic teachings or institutions, but Muslims and non-Muslims alike frequently use the adjective Islamic to elevate cultural expressions to the position of normative or consummate institutions or practices. Islam is the name of the religion. It means a state of peace achieved through surrender to God. Muslim is used as an adherent of the Islamic faith. The core Islamic sources of Quran and Sunnah provide knowledge of this realm. One may examine the faith's constructs, interpret its teachings and practices. However, one ought not to describe a person or any historical phenomenon as Islamic. Researcher insights. Researchers Susan L. Douglas and Munir A. Sheikh published this article for multiple reasons. 1. To explore terminology related to Islam and provide guidelines to clarify its use in internal and external discourses. To chart out typology of expressions of Islamic education in various institutions. 3. To develop more accurate definitions that can help to bridge differences between public discourses about Islamic education among Americans and among Muslims. 4. To illuminate concepts of education that are associated with Islam's and Muslim educational traditions, and to identify parallels with concepts that have also been associated with Western educational and cultural values. The generic term Islamic education can mean many things. Therefore, it is necessary to differentiate among the diverse institutions that engage in education related to Islam, particularly in the U.S. We institutions can identify 4 types of educational activity. The following sections describe 3 types of ongoing educational activities and institutions present in the United States, while the 4th type illuminates some traditional concepts of Islamic education. The first type is education of Muslims in their Islamic faith. The Muslim community educating their own about their heritage, similar to our American history classes. This education of Muslims might take place in mosques, schools, or universities, and other organizations established by Muslims over the centuries. In the U.S., boys and girls and adult males and females are served by this type of Islamic education. Education for Muslims. Muslim students receive both a secular, non-religion, and Islamic education. Unlike many public schools in America, where religion is not talked about or spoke of in the classroom. Full-time Muslim schools fill the category of education for Muslims because they embrace a much broader enterprise than mosque lectures, after-school programs, and weekend schools. Muslim schools have names, often in Arabic, that evoke goals and aspirations such as the common light, faith, and guidance. The majority of Muslim schools serve primary grades K through 6, but numerous K through 8 schools and a handful of high schools exist. In addition to these institutions, a growing number of Muslim parents homeschool their children like their counterparts in other religious and even secular communities in the U.S. To meet the demands of parents who pay tuition, Muslim full-time schools generally adhere closely to the local and state public school curricula. In the core academic subjects, the same commercially produced textbooks for public schools are used in Muslim school classrooms. To these standard programs in core subjects, they add instructions in the Quranic recitation and memorization, basic Islamic beliefs and practices, and usually Arabic language. Neither the curriculum nor the textbooks have been standardized. The third type of education is education about Islam for those who are not Muslim. Islam history was not regularly taught in American schools and had many inaccuracies when talking about Islam and Muslims. More recently, it has become part of the curriculum. For 2 decades, teaching about world religions has been part of the public school curriculum, most prominently in social studies classes. The most significant factor in promoting teaching about religions in the public schools has been dissemination of the First Amendment Center guidelines for teaching about religion in a constitutionally sound manner. The final finding is education in an Islamic spirit and tradition. This is the most important category in this typology. Some might assume that Islamic education might be shorthand for teaching hatred of the West for the United States. The concept of Islamic education cannot be reduced to such stereotypes, nor is it limited to rigid transmittal of 1400-year-old lifeways from ancient Arabia. Islamic education is certainly part of a traditional, historical, but it is also not the polar opposite of modernity, democracy, or the Western values. Education is the first duty of a Muslim, male or female. Researchers' conclusions. Douglas and Sheikh said, "It becomes evident that both the obligation to be educated and the moral, intellectual, and cultural concepts of an education in the Muslim tradition are not far removed from the similar goals and concepts associated with Western traditions and aspects of education." How is this related to the course? A world-class education system should not just be defined by rates of high school and college graduation, but also by the quality of its educational outcomes and whether the content and skills are adequately preparing students for a rapidly changing global environment, said Vice Stewart. The education Muslim students receive may be different than the children in America, but it is preparing them for life in their country, which is different from life in America. So clearly, their education is going to be different. Coming from America, the term Islamic, or Muslim can be labeled as taboo, but after reading the information presented about Islamic education, it seems to me that the Muslim people are just trying to educate their children as we are doing here in America. That concludes my presentation on Islam and education.